recording. Um, have you guys heard of the terms black hats, white hats, gray hats?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like, can someone tell me what their understanding of black hat, white hat, and gray hats is?
Aren't black hats like the bad guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically my understanding, is that a black hat would be someone who is a malicious hacker. A white hat would be someone who is using info security to try to protect data, people, and organizations. And gray hats are people who kind of straddle the line using the dark arts that the black hats use, but for quasi, if not good, then maybe not bad purposes.
That's yeah, that's right. Anyone else?
It's just like a black hat. A black hat is a computer hackers who is violated laws of ethical and standards. For that is like nervouses and then parses and then parses and something like that.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's great. So, the way you want to think of it, like, the black hats are kind of like criminals, if you will. In a way, they are doing illegal things. Um, the white hats are hired to do the bad things, but to find the issues. So white hats are hackers who are authorized to hack, and gray hats, the way you want to think of it, they kind of lie somewhere in the middle. Part of their work is legal, part of their work is not legal. So kind of keep that in mind. We'll talk a lot about these. We will do like a little bit of a group exercise where, I want you guys to kind of like maybe dissect a problem a little bit. So we will do a group exercise around that. But kind of keep in mind, like, hackers come in all shapes, basically, right? Sweet. So when I say that, we are securing something, what are we really securing? So we are securing three things. So security is kind of like a three-legged stool, if you will. It stands on CIA. So what that means is when you're securing something, what you're really protecting is confidentiality of the system, the integrity of the system, and the availability of the system. Confidentiality basically means like, the system shouldn't give information which is confidential to the users of the system to someone else. Integrity implies that, someone shouldn't be able to go and tamper the log of records. Someone shouldn't be able to go and attribute like, changing of data to someone else. So that's the integrity of the system, right? That someone X did the action Y, that needs to be preserved, not someone Z who did the action Y, right? And the third, but equally important one is availability. What that means is just the fact that the system is available is important. So if, availability goes down, so for example, if someone is able to just call a phone number and just kind of like prevent from anyone else important to call you, this used to be kind of like an attack done back in the day, like to keep a phone line busy so important calls don't make through. So that's also an attack on the security of the system. So take a minute, digest that, and maybe I would like one of you guys to try to kind of tell me what do you mean by CIA? What do you kind of understand by CIA? All right. Someone wants to volunteer and tell me their understanding of CIA?
Yeah, I guess I can try. For the confidentiality, the first thing comes to mind is only authorized user can get into the system. So that means they can use the username password, something that you have. Um, you can use a two-factor authentication to make sure that person is who or she said she is or he is. So once it got authenticated, then the next thing comes authorization. So if someone cannot go into a certain part of the data, um, the system shouldn't allow them. And this is to preserve the integrity of the data so that person cannot modify or even access that data. And also in integrity means that if that person access that data, you cannot say he doesn't access it because we have a log to prove it. So that proves the integrity of that data. And then the availability is basically, we want to make sure the system is available when authorized users are able to access it. So there's no denial of service attack. You know, like you said, the caller, if someone call, you want to make sure the phone line is available. In this case, they can log in and not getting a 404 error.
That's right. So yeah, that's a good understanding. I like that you threw in the idea of authentication and authorization, and we will cover that at some point in the course, because a lot of people get confused by what's authentication and what's authorization. But for the current understanding of things, it's okay to just understand that only the people who are supposed to access the system should be able to access the system. All right, I'm gonna pick someone else randomly. So maybe Nella, you wanna kind of present what your understanding of CIA is?
Sure. Yeah, for CIA, my notes so far, I just have down confidentiality, privacy, maintaining that. For integrity, you shouldn't be able to change systems without permission. And then availability as the system being online and making sure that things are down, people are aware of that.
Right, that's great. Yeah, so these three things will come in different way, in different contexts. So your understanding of like the nuances of what's confidentiality and what's integrity versus what's availability is will refine over time. But what you're kind of getting from the general understanding is correct. But keep in mind, like these words, right? Like this terminology is consistent in security. So a lot of standards are built around this. A lot of like tools are built around this. So try to have your understanding formed around these three aspects. So when you're looking at the threat, you really look at the threat and say, hey, is this threat going to kind of break the C, break the I, break the A, or it's going to break all three, right? So keep that in the back of your head. So next up, what I want to talk a little bit about is, when you kind of test, right? Like when you are like, trying to figure out whether your system is secure or not, you're doing what's called, the words kind of, backdated. It seems a little bit arcane, but they call it penetration testing. Right. And so penetration testing is this tests which organizations do, and some standards require them to be done yearly, which kind of, gives a little bit of bearing on like, hey, how secure is my system? So the way I usually like to kind of say it, like if you're a bank, right, and you have like a safe vault, and so every year you hire these thieves to come and try to steal money from your wallet. And that's the penetration test, right? And so depending on how successful the thieves are, then they end up writing a report. And then they tell you like, hey, your walls are not solid. Hey, your guard at the security was sleeping, or like, hey, I was just able to drill right through the way through the safe and just access everything. So they try to give you a detailed report on like what you need to fix to make your system, your safer, right? And so there are different types of systems you would test with a penetration test, if you will. But the idea is what you're really doing is you're hiring professional hackers. And so what type of hackers would these be? So when you hire someone for a penetration test, who would they be? Would they be a black hat, a white hat, a gray hat?
White hat.
White hat.
White hat. That's right. Yeah. So so that's kind of what you would be hiring is a white hat because they are doing everything legally, right? And so we will talk a little bit about like pen tests next few minutes. So pen tests are are done in phase, in kind of a little bit like, so the reason it's so important to maybe talk about pen tests is because that's sort of like how hackers work. That's how kind of like hackers' mind works. That's how they operate. Like that's how their process is as well. So it applies somewhat uniformly to all types of hackers, including the black hat and the gray hat, right? Because they also are kind of doing similar things. So we'll talk a little bit about the phases of the pen tests. Before you kind of, so for example, like, let me just like, I'll make it a 10,000 feet scenario first, and then we'll break down a little bit. So can someone tell me if they were hired to kind of do a pen test for a bank safe, right? Like what would they do? Like in general, what would be your approach? Maybe we'll have 2-3 people kind of present their approach. What are they going to do? Someone wants to volunteer?
I will volunteer.
Yes.
So the idea is to check and see if a vault is secure. The first thing I would do is just try to see if it's open. So one thing would be to walk in authoritatively as though I belong there and see if anyone lets me right in the door, because oftentimes people will do that. The next thing would be to look for the weakest point. So, to try to understand what kind of alarm systems there are, how they're set up, and how they might be disarmed unintentionally or intentionally, to look for any kind of moments in time when people aren't paying attention, and to see what vulnerabilities can be taken advantage of during those moments. And then, I probably would try to use some tools to see if the actual vault could be penetrated.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Anyone else? doesn't have to be too detailed. You can get just in general, how would you go about doing it?
I will probably find out what kind of vote they have and then research and see what are some of the weak points and trying to get through that way. Either maybe social engineering or perimeters in terms of physical security, like how much camera they have around, and make sure I wasn't monitored, I guess, when they walk in.
Yeah, no, that's great. Awesome. Uh, Arden, do you wanna volunteer?
No, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Awesome. Yeah, so in general, like like the approaches, what you guys described makes sense, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna just try to walk in and see if they let me through. I'm gonna try several approaches, right? Someone said they're gonna try social engineering, so on and so forth, right? So, the way the distinct way, and these are sort of like, the lingo or the terms used in the industry, right? Like, and you probably have also seen this in movies and stuff like that. Like, they call like, oh, I'm doing a recon. So like, the first thing what you're really trying to do is, you're doing a reconnaissance, or you're just trying to gather information, right? And so the first, like, you're just trying to, okay, this is the bank I'm trying to um hack, right? And or trying to steal from. So you're trying to gather information. So when you kind of do this, and you will kind of be thorough doing that, because you can you can get caught only once, right? If you're caught, you're out, right? And so you want to be thorough. So you're going to try to find all the information about the bank. You're like, hey, is the guard on the duty all the time? Can I kind of put a camera there and see like what times the guard is there, he's not there? Or like, can I put a camera, or like can I just stand there and see like, what type of people he lets in, what type of people he looks at the badge, things like that? Or can I get information on what type of safe the bank has, right? Like, oh, the bank has model X of Y type of brand. Then I'm going to try to research that and see, what are like, can I just like, drill right through it? Or like, can I like, is there a special code, a backdoor code for it? Or things like that, right? So you're going to do a lot of research. And so this research is called recon. Like, and the way you kind of do that is in context of the organization and the context of the objective, right? Your objective was safe. In some cases, your objective is like internet properties, like a website, network, network devices, industrial automation system, things like that. Whatever it might be, what the first thing you're going to try to do is recon. And so that's the idea of gathering information, right? So the next phase is, and this is sort of like, in the banking case, like, this is, you're going to try to like, uh, scan the system. Like, what does that mean? Like, you're going to try to, gather information of the day at the bank, right? Like, what days the bank is busy, what days the bank is not busy, what days the guard is there, what days the guard is not there. So that sort of kind of like, scanning is when you kind of do in a web property, you do it with tools. And so there is a lot of like these automated tools which have these vulnerabilities built in. So one of equivalent of a banking thing might be, you kind of see, on a busy day, like let's say, Monday, Monday 9 a.m., the bank's very busy. And, the guards basically just not like, he's just so inundated with people walking in and walking out that he just doesn't even care to look at anything, for example, right? They're not even letting people run through metal scanners or whatever it is, right? And so once you have that, oh, at this particular point, the system is pretty weak, right? And so you try to do that with automated tools. In case of bank, you might do it with cameras. You might just go sit there. In terms of website, there is like, there are these scanning apps which you will kind of like look at all the web pages and try to find a web page which is like, hey, there is a vulnerability on this page. Or on a system, on a computer, there are these scanning tools, you run them and you're like, hey, looks like they're running a software which is already broken into, things like that, right? So the scanning phase. And so once in the scan, you kind of find like the weak points. You found out, Monday morning, 9 a.m., no one's like looking, people are just letting them through. And, I looked at the model of the of this particular safe, and it looks like I can just drill through. So you just kind of do it. On Monday morning, 9 a.m., you walk in and you just drill through the safe and you kind of like, hey, here it is. So then this is like very similar to what even a black hat hacker does. Like these steps are very similar. So up to this point, like, and they actually exploit, but post it is sort of like a little bit different. So a white hat hacker, when they're doing a pen test, what they're then going to do is they're going to write a detailed report of like what happened. Hey, look, you were not following the procedures on Monday. Your safe's like not upgraded. You should upgrade to the new model of the safe, things like that. Whereas, once an exploit is done, a black hat, what they might do is a black hat, meaning a seasoned criminal group or a seasoned nation state, and we'll talk about these in a bit. What's a criminal group? What's a nation state? So these are also hackers, right? Like, you probably heard a lot in media about like, about like nation states like, China, Korea, North Korea, Russia hacking other nations, right? And so they have very seasoned organizations, and there is like a whole hierarchy of groups which we know are active and are sponsored by the nation, right? And they are hired by the country to hack other countries, right? And so they're nation states. And then there are like criminal gangs who operate from sometimes these nation states, or they can operate even from other nation states, right? And they are also very organized, right? And so what they would do is post exploit. They just didn't want to exploit. They would do is post exploitation phase. They would maybe implant a command and control bug into your system, so that they would basically have access to your systems after it. So that's the big difference. Like, a black hat or a gray hat might not like really, write a report for you, but they're going to actually, use that exploit to actually have presence in your system, which in future they might like, they might steal the blueprints for your next generation device from your network, or they might steal formula for your drug or things like that, right? So that's what the phase there would be. And a white hat, which is a pen test, will basically end of the engagement will give a report. And black hat at the end of engagement, what they're going to try to do is they're going to steal your money, or they're going to steal your trade secrets, or they're going to ask for a ransom, right? So that's sort of the difference. So, kind of keep that in mind. So types of pen tests you would do. So if I didn't give you any information about the system, right, then it's called a black box testing. If I gave you some information, it's gray box. And if I gave you like, hey, here's the blueprint of my building, here's the blueprint of my software, here's blueprint of my network, then that's a white box testing. So when you kind of do the hacking activity with some information, that's kind of what you want to think of, like black box testing, gray box testing, white box testing. Typically in white box testing, the hackers also have in a computer system, they have access to the source code of the company as well. Sweet. So of course, these cases don't really apply to like a black hat, because the black hat is never going to get any information. Everything they do is black box, right? They're just going to kind of get that. Sweet. So cool. So these are like, with the information, we'll talk a little bit about external, internal. When you hire a other company to do a pen test, it's external. When you have your employees do it, it's internal. When you kind of like only target a particular department, you might just say, hey, I want to only test my my networks. A blind pen test is when you don't, like a black box pen test. Yeah, another word for it might be a blind pen test. A double blind is, which is this one you have to be very cognizant. Is this very frequently gets done in like systems like banks or like nuclear sites and things like that, where it's double blind. What does double blind mean? Is like not only the tester doesn't know much about this facility, but also the people who work in the facility, they don't know that such a test is being carried. So when, for example, if you hire hackers to break your vault, very many times you're just not even going to tell your security staff about that either, right? Because you want to know how efficient they are. So that sort of or if you have a nuclear site, right? Like you're not going to tell the staff, hey, we're going to do a security test here. You want to see how effective it is. So you don't tell your staff, you don't tell any information to the external testing firm either. So that's called a double blind. Cool. I'll talk a little bit about the tools, but these and this over the next lessons and lectures, we'll cover a lot of these tools. Sweet. Any questions so far? Let me pause here for a minute.
Yeah, if we hire a white box tester to do the pen test, how can we be sure after the testing is over? Because you mentioned we give them the source code, the most critical part of the company intellectual property. So how do we know they don't save anything and exploit it later?
Yeah, so that is basically that is the trust part of security, right? So you have to trust them on that. But also when you kind of sign the contract, you will put legalese in there. But end of day, everything boils down to trust. So you don't give this to anyone, no name, right? You don't give it to another country. You don't find like a security consulting firm in Russia and give them your source code, right? You don't. So you would probably find a firm which is like long record, them, you know their ethics. So it's about trust, like largely.
Okay.
But of course, like when you sign the engagement with them, when you make the legal contract, you do write all of that in there. So there is a formal pen testing contract which covers and which should cover all of those things. But end of day, it's about trust.
Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Any other questions? Okay, so as I kind of pause on the tools used, what I'm going to do is, how many of you guys have our Discord? So I'm just bringing up the CIS 55. Is anyone in this channel already? I see some people are already in the channel. I think Andrew, you are in the channel already. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, great. So what I'm gonna do is and this will be on your lab, but I just want to maybe spend a few minutes and we'll talk about tools. So I'll just kind of do a bit of a jump here. And so there is I'm going to okay. Amin says he deleted his Discord account. So I recommend like opening a new Discord account. What I'm going to do is, so this account, this Discord is used by all Merit courses. So in order to get most out of the class and be able to communicate, I recommend people to do it. Let me send you guys a link.
So I signed up for Discord already, but it asks for friends, and I don't know.
So
sign
what
up
I'm
for.
gonna say is, if you have a Discord account, or even if you don't have a Discord account, what you do is there is a link here in your chat, and just click on the link. If you have a Discord account, make sure your first name, last name is like, is like how it is for course registered. And use that Discord. If you don't have, create an account. Why don't we take a couple minutes? Not everyone has to get through it. I just wanted to get an idea like how easy for you guys to kind of get it. So why don't you sign for the Discord here? And I sent a link here. So what you're going to see is you will get signed into the Bangnal Club, which is the Merit Club, and I highly recommend becoming part of the club. You're going to get a lot out of the program and the Merit infrastructure, because students who have completed the course before you are very active on this Discord, and pretty much like all Merit classes are on this Discord. So it's a great resource. So if you are new first year, what you do is once you sign up, you go to this channel introductions and introduce yourself. Say, hey, I am, so, this is a good example. Bamba did this on day before yesterday. My name is, sorry, Erdin did this. Erdin, sorry to butcher your name. Erdin, and I'm currently enrolled in CIS 55 and 60, and I would like to join the channel. So if you kind of say something like this, then, the admins on this channel will add you to the classes. So why don't few people try that right now? I just want to make sure it's working for you guys. If you are not on Discord, just make a new account. If you are already on Discord, then sign up and introduce. The first step is introduce yourself. And so with that, I'm going to this is going to be one of your lab assignments. So I just wanted to cover it before. So let me, in your assignment, in your first assignment, this is lab. So
It says for me, it says email already registered. I don't know how to go about doing this.
Anthony, that probably means you already have an account with Discord.
Yeah.
And you might just need to reset your password.
I'm on the, I'm on there already. User profile, edit account, edit username, add email.
Did you click the link in the chat?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
Because it worked for me. It just took me right to it.
I'm on there, but now I see everything, but I'm not like,
You are on where and you see what?
I'm on, it says my account and it says, my name and display name, username. I have to claim an email.
Are you able to
I
sign
claim
in?
the email says that claim it. Email is already registered. Claim your account. I claim my account. Email already registered. Account enable. Delete account.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a few minutes. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna, and I just, okay, great. I see is a, okay, great. Awesome. Eric, awesome. Um, okay, who is this Viking Leon? Sorry. Um, okay, Amin. Okay, Amin, sorry. Yeah, so you are on here. So, the best way to kind of get in is, I gave you a permission code, right? Is that right? You're in CIS 55? Yes. Okay, great. So, on the email I sent you, there will be Professor Brooks. So why don't you email her for like CIS 60 or Sandy? Those two emails should be on the email I sent you. Why don't you email both of them? Okay. Okay, awesome. So, Morris, okay, great. So you guys get the sense of it, right? Like, so this is what you do in the introductions. You introduce yourself and then they will add you to the channels. And as you see, like, I have access to all the channels. but you will see like, if you have 40, 55, and 60, you will see, I don't think there is a channel for 40, but there is a channel for 55 and there is a channel for 60. So you will see in your merit classes, those channels show up on your Discord. Yeah. Great. So I mean, you have a question, how private is it? What do you mean by that? So Discord, once you are on the channel is everyone who is on the channel is able to see it. Like, so this is the kind of channel you will see. Like, awesome. Okay, great. So, oh, awesome. I see already Uli, Nella, Tan, Apang. So when you, what I really want, this is one of the things we've been trying really hard on this Discord, is to kind of have people be more interactive. And so because you will learn as much from each other as much from me. And of course, I will learn from you guys as well. So, make it a point, as you kind of come across interesting things, interesting tools, you share it on the Discord. So, you kind of learn from each other. But the first activity I want you guys to do as a lab for this class is, share a hack which you saw recently in the news and that caught your interest. Like, and good example is Andy just shared this one. HP had a hack, like, and so he shared that on the link here. So I'm just going to say, great.
Question,
Go
if
ahead.
our Discord name with our existing account has nothing to do with our actual name, as far as posting in here and making sure we get credit and whatnot, is that going to work out okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. But I also say, like, just for maybe duration of the class, so Discord has this feature. You can change your name per Discord server you sign up to.
Oh,
So,
okay.
So like you see here, I've changed my name. So if you click here, like on your,
Got it.
like here, if you click here, you will see here. And if you are yourself, it will let you change only for that server. So, if you have a gamer account and people know you by that alias somewhere else, that's not going to be affected. It's going to only be changed for this server.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't use Discord very much, and I signed up for an account at one point for something
you don't
else.
need,
Didn't want to use my real name, so
you can
that's
change
great.
it. Yeah, you can change it, but you can also change it per server. So that means, like, in other places you don't want to reveal your name, that's fine. Like,
got it. Thank you.
So I have a question. I'm trying to do this with Discord, but it's not letting me in. Do you see my name in there?
No, that link should let you in. Like, it's working. Like, what's like? Did you sign up?
Anthony Gafkidas in there?
So you have to go to the introduction channel. Does it show you Merit Cybersecurity?
It says community introductions. That's it, though.
Yeah, that's it. So in introductions, now introduce yourself. Like, like, hello, my name is so and so, and I'm currently
It says
enrolled.
claim account, and that's all it says. Claim account. I claim account, and it says my name is already existed.
Okay, then why don't you go to the introductions and introduce yourself?
Yeah.
So click on
For some reason, I don't know
introductions.
why that's not going to do it. It says you must claim and verify your account before you send messages to the server. And when I claim account, it doesn't do anything.
Has anyone run across something like that?
Yes, you clean account and they will send one email the confirmation for you. But I did it, but I don't get it yet. I resend it yet, resend it, never get.
Maybe if you are having something like that, maybe because that email is not working or it was registered as a spam email or something, why don't you guys who are having trouble sign up for a new Discord account and use that link? Does that make sense?
Okay, I will try now.
It won't let me sign up for a new account because I have my email in there already.
Use a different email. Okay, awesome, guys. We are at 11:15. Okay. So as people kind of go, like, other things, which is what I really wanted to kind of maybe talk a little bit about, is what you could be doing on Discord is sharing tools. So, I'm just kind of showing a few tools here, like which are quite, interesting, and we will cover part of these tools in our course. And you want to know the names of these tools because they are kind of quite used in, the hacker community, right? Like, so Nessus. So Nessus is basically, this scanning application. I told you there is an open source version of it. It's very, it's popular for network scanning. It's popular to figure out, like, what ports and what, what servers are vulnerable. Metasploit is like this whole automated exploiting framework. It's a very powerful framework which lets you kind of get into systems. Again, like these are tools which come with like great power. When we'll take a break, when we come back, I want you guys to kind of do a short, like 15-minute exercise on, like, how to be ethical about things. But other tool is like Nmap, Wireshark, John the Ripper, Burp Suite, Cain and Abel, so on and so forth. Like there is a whole bunch of very, very popular hacking tools. So as you kind of come across tools, share them in Discord, and not just share them. Like if you find a way to use them and what they're useful for, share it. In Discord, because over time what you're really going to build as a hacker, as a network pen tester, as a web app pen tester, in general, what you're going to build up is your own Swiss Army knife of these tools. And then I'll show you shortly, like, for people who want to kind of do a little bit more, like, has anyone here installed Kali Linux or has heard the name Kali Linux?
I've heard of it.
Heard of it.
Okay.
Install it, haven't done it yet though.
Okay, great. Anyone who has it working and installed?
Yes, I have it on my Lenovo.
Awesome. So I'll quickly show you by end of today's class. This is like, I'm not going to kind of require it in this class because a lot of times, but it will be great if people can kind of try it and get it like working, because that's a great, it's already like, it's a Swiss Army knife, which already has a bunch of tools for you. So you can kind of play with it like very easily. So we'll talk a little bit about it towards the end of the class. So sweet, cool. I'm going to talk a little bit about, so, typically there is a lot of, like, I talked about like these nation states, right? I talked about these criminal gangs. So, there is a little bit of nomenclature on, like, yes, there is the type of hackers in terms of whether you're black hat or gray hat or you're white hat, that sort of stuff. But it's also based on your experience level. So, there is like, these groups called as APTs. And so what APT stands for is Advanced Persistent Threats. It's a very glorified word, but what it is like, these are like very well funded groups whose day job is to hack, and to hack like in a criminal way. And so they are called APTs. Typically, most of the APTs are sponsored by nation states, and they have they have numbers. You will kind of hear a APT 41, APT 141, so on and so forth. You will hear names of APTs These are well-known kind of groups, which have office buildings and which are people who are paid to hack, like 24/7 or 9 to 5, right? Like, so those are APTs. They are very sophisticated. And we'll talk about few resources. So if you kind of see, the US government also has its own APTs. So if you see some of the popular hacking movies and things like that, you will see the name of the APTs. There are ransomware groups. These are criminal gangs. They are also pretty sophisticated. And then there is like script kiddies, these people who just have access to some tools and just are trying to kind of hack accounts. There are like hacktivists. These people are not trying to hack for money, but they have a cause, right? Like they're an activist group who are passionate about some cause, and they're trying to have their cause heard, right? There is garden variety hackers. These might be as garden variety as someone just obsessed with someone they like or love, and they're trying to hack their account because they're upset or something like that, right? Like, so things like that. And then on the other spectrum, there are insiders. So insiders are people who work for a company, and then you probably heard recently someone, I think it was at HP. They basically were the employee of the company, and they got bribed to kind of hack the company or share the data of the company. So there is also that threat where the employees kind of have get corrupt in a way, either by force or by money, to share the company's information or to make their systems vulnerable. So those are insiders, right? So, but all of these are threats, right? For if you are defender, if you are like what's called the blue team, if these are the people you want to be aware of, and like what kind of tools they use, right? So it's very similar. Like if you want to kind of have a military analogy, you want to be very, very much like, oh, am I against like an army? Am I against like rogue thieves? Am I against like these gangs of miscreants? Things like that. So it's very similar analogy, because all of these groups have their own tool sets and their own techniques, right? And so if you are emulating them, you want to emulate all of these. And if you are protecting against them, you want to kind of keep in mind like what they will do, right? So keep that in mind. So other thing you want to sort of be aware is 0-day vulnerabilities. Can someone tell me what 0-day vulnerabilities are?
A 0-day vulnerability is one that hasn't been officially discovered yet. So it's exploited before anybody even knows it's a vulnerability.
That's right. Anyone else? Anyone else want to try?
I don't know for sure, but the thing that I associate them with is it's a vulnerability that's just been discovered, oftentimes by like a gray hat type who's found it out in the wild, and no one's had time to make a patch yet.
So I would say that is a wrong perception.
Okay.
So 0 days are typically so as someone mentioned earlier, 0 days are vulnerabilities which no one is aware of, including the maker of the vulnerability. So if I were Microsoft, if I were like Google making Android, or if I were Apple making iPhone, right? 0 days are vulnerabilities which even I, as the maker of that software, I'm not aware of. And someone knows about it and they didn't tell me. So they are a gray hat or a black hat, and they're using it to get into my systems. So those are 0-day vulnerabilities which the maker of the software is not aware of. there is like a very good read called "This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends." If you find it in library or like, I think, if you have one of the library apps, Libby or something like that, you should be able to get hold of this book. It is an amazing book which tells you about zero-day vulnerabilities and the whole market of zero-day vulnerabilities. There is a huge underground market where people buy and sell these zero-day vulnerabilities. And they are basically like vulnerabilities which let you get into someone's phone without doing anything. They'll let you get into someone's computer without doing anything. The reason being is the exploits which are used by these things are not known to the maker of the phone or the computer as well. Does that make sense? So, so keep in mind, like, there is always going to be 0 days out there somewhere. There is no such thing as perfectly secure. So let that sink in for a little bit, because, that is the modern truth, right? So when you have something really, really important, you want to be aware of this fact, right? You don't trust anything.
So if we're doing a penetration testing, we found a 0-day vulnerability, who should we tell?
So there is an ethics around it. The first thing is it's called responsible vulnerability disclosure. So you should tell the maker of the software, and they typically have something on their website which tells you how to tell them about it.
Okay, thank you.
If you probably go to like Apple-security, Google/security, Microsoft/security, they will have a responsible vulnerability disclosure guideline. And typically, it might be just a form which submit them or email them. Some of them will also ask you to send them through encrypted email.
Okay.
Teacher, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong, but 0 day is look like example. Someone call me and they tell me, "Oh, I am the Bank of America, and we need confirmation active in your account." And they send me an email or text code for I maybe reply. And when I reply, I get I lost my power in my phone. Like my phone come like black. I cannot see nothing, and they have totally access on my phone. And my phone, they have access my email, my bank account, my information, because maybe they ask, "Oh, can you log in your bank account?" And you log in your bank account. When you log in your bank account, I think they can see your phone, and that when they get your information, and after that they send a virus, right? And and you don't have access to your phone for like a couple hours, so they stealing your money, your information, something like that.
Yeah, so I wanna, and that's a really great point. And that kind of like very, very necessarily, it probably doesn't have a 0 day in it. Like with that particular attack you kind of talk about, because the cost of 0 day vulnerability to have one of these known and be able to have it is pretty high. So a random hacker, like a garden variety or one, or like a group, even a big group, is not going to be able to do it that easily. So most likely what they have is these set of attacks. And so these are common attack vectors. What they did first to you when they called you, they did an social engineering attack, right? And then what they tried to do is they exploited a vulnerability which is already known in your software. So there might be a vulnerability in your screen sharing application, which was already known. And when you clicked on it, they probably, access that. And so whenever you are signing in and typing and getting the username password, they're using the vulnerability which is already known, most likely. Okay, and then they're stealing your username password, and then they're doing privileged access misuse. So these are some examples of vulnerability, and the scenario this describes has like combination of those attacks. The one which I recommend people, and it is more authoritative, and people in the industry look at it more. It is very, very detailed, but it's also worth spending some time. And you might not be able to digest. Of course, you will not be able to digest all the information here, but you want to get familiar with this attack setup, because this is very well researched. It's sort of used in the industry quite exhaustively. So this is called the MITRE attack framework. And here you will see all kinds of attacks people use in different phases and on different techniques. I'm not going to go deep dive into it, but I just wanted you guys to kind of get a taste of it. Like those few attacks I showed here are listed here, like, but typically when a attack happens, it's through some combination of these things. Typically, there are of course always new things coming up, but likely not new attack vectors happening that frequently. So this doesn't change that much every day, but it does change over time significantly. So these are like kind of the attack vectors, right? Like if you want to do credential access, again, like this is a name, like if you click here, it's going to tell you what credential access means. So from the slides, you can get to that, but credential access basically means you're stealing someone's username passwords. How can you do that? You can be man in the middle, like you can sit in a coffee shop and try to snoop on the traffic which people are going through in the coffee shop, and then steal their username passwords in the coffee shop. You can brute force it. You can guess their username passwords based on, like, popular usernames and popular passwords, so on and so forth. Like, you will see there is a long list of these attack techniques, right? So I recommend looking at those. And so maybe talk a little bit about defense mechanism, right? We talked about attack. So like if you were like, let's take an example of like that phone someone said, right? And someone called as Bank of America, right? What would be how would you defend against something like that? Someone wants to jump in, like how would you defend someone calling you saying they're Bank of America?
Hang up.
Not
Shut up.
you personally, but if you were a company and you were trying to defend your employees with something like that happening, how would you? And then also, of course, describe if you were the person, what would you do?
I would say as a company, they could use multi-factor authentication of some sort so that they could basically, in addition, see information as to, let's say, your last 4 digits of your social security, before you can jump on to give private information. I think as an individual, the safe route to go will be, you could actually say, depends on what, let's say you were sharing your account details. You'd ordinarily not want to do that over the phone, because most companies would ordinarily have sent you a couple of emails telling you about phishing mechanisms and things like that. So they'll tell you, for instance, don't share your details over the phone, that the other person is meant to have it already. So I think those are some kind of techniques you could use before just giving your information over the phone, because they ordinarily should not be soliciting that information from you. They should be verifying your information so that they can jump in, and not you giving them that information they should already have.
Sure. That's one way. How about Din? Do you want to volunteer? How would you defend? Looks like, geez. Okay. How about Mo? Mo, do you want to tell how would you defend against someone calling you and telling you they're Bank of America?
I could share real quick.
Sure.
I think personally, if someone called me and I had a bank account with them and they're trying to say that they're my bank, I would hang up and I would actually just call the actual bank number to speak to an actual bank representative to see if there's anything wrong with my account. So I think that would be my first step. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great.
And-
Yeah. So
And for me, I'll probably ask the agent's name on the phone, and then I'll walk into a BFA, branch, and then sort it out.
got it. Yeah, no, that's great. So, the short answer for that type of attack is a social engineering, right? And so go ahead. Go. Mo, you were saying something?
Oh, my bad. I was just so you said the question was if Bank of America calls you, right? What you say?
How would you
Trying to-
defend, like, if someone pretended to be Bank of America and called you, like the scenario which was described earlier,
Yeah.
what would you do to defend?
I'll just ignore it. I wouldn't even say nothing. Like, I would just I get those texts all the time. It's like, yeah, I just ignore it as a spam. Oh.
Yeah, so yeah, true. So, the thing with social engineering attacks is they've gotten really, really sophisticated. Like, they've become very very intense, and they are one of the major attack vectors, if you will. And the number one defense, if I were like the head of the security helping the company which has these attacks coming in, I would do is educate, like, educate the users. Like, what do you do when someone calls you? Like, what do you do when someone calls you in a hurry? Like, hey, this is your friend XYZ, and I need to transfer some money because, they know your friend's name, they know, your daughter's or your kids' name, they know like a lot about you, and then you very instantly trust them, right? But the number they're calling from, you don't know what that number is, right? So the number one thing is education. Like, hey, yes, it might seem urgent. It might be like, it might also be a urgent case, right? Someone actually might need the help, right? So the best way to do that is like, hey, how about I hang up and I'll call you at something I know, right? Like, I know might be like, I walk into Bank of America, or I call Bank of America, or things like that. But basically, the defense will be n number of things, but the first step is like, I be aware of like, oh, this might be an attack, or this might be a way I might lose information. That's the first thing I want to do. So having said something like that, that's for humans, right? And so for devices, there is like a whole bunch of these attack prevention things. They're called intrusion detection or prevention. So if you are a network and you're getting malware, right, how do you prevent it? You have a list of these malwares, and you check in, hey, is this IP address known to be like a bad IP address? If it is, then I'm not going to let anything come in from this IP address, right? Or I will have a firewall. I will check at each packet coming in through. I will close certain ports, right? Like things like that, which I will do on network level. But the way you want to think of it is security is a security is like an onion. What you do, and this used to be an open source software, but now they've made a company out of it. But there's security onion solutions is a great way to learn about how to put these layers of security in an organization, right? So you put like, if you were to protect a bank, right, you just don't protect the bank by putting a guard, right? You're going to put like a very strong wall around the vault, right? You're going to put all your important things in a vault, which has like a very specific, way to open it, right? So you build your defense in layers, right? And so that's the way you want to think of it. And if you want to, like, we won't go too much deep into it, but I just wanted to introduce, this is this is a great way to kind of build your security, to build it in layers, right? Like if you're defending a fortress, for example, right? You build it in layers. You will have a wall, you will have a moat, you will have a guard at the entry checkpoint, you will have people roaming inside the perimeter of the fortress to check on anyone bad, things like that, right? So sort of think of defense as layers. And so this is a good example. For that's a good example of networks, a good example of your endpoint, which is your computer, and the endpoint might be your computer as a laptop or as a phone or as an iPad, right? What you kind of try to do is you put antivirus, you kind of do sandboxing, you do patch management, vulnerability management. Like there is a whole number of things you do on your devices to secure, right? As a standard way of defending yourself. We won't go too deep into these things in this course, but I just wanted to introduce you guys into it. I encourage you guys to see a movie or like, even a short YouTube thing called Stuxnet. Have anyone heard about Stuxnet? Okay, great. So that is awesome. I will actually, you know what? We will do that. And maybe we'll do towards the end of today's class. We'll watch a little bit of Stuxnet, just the trailer of Stuxnet, to kind of get you to kind of a glimpse of the type of attacks, right? The book I recommend also is it's called Cyberspace, fifth domain of the warfare. Like if you probably now see more and more nation states have a fifth, like they have a cyber army, if you will. And so these are people whose job is to attack and defend in the cyberspace. And so the US government has it. Most big countries have a cyber army now. And so that's kind of what they are trying to, like, this is like on the highest level of the practice, right? Like that's kind of what is going on. The other one you want to research and learn a little bit from is called NotPetya. NotPetya is very relevant currently because that is what like Russia used to bring down Ukraine in a lot of early warfare. Like, the Ukrainian internet and banking system got toast by this virus called NotPetya. And if you kind of read a little bit on it, you kind of get like what did they do, right? Like how did they actually, because so much of our current life depends on internet. It depends on, things be able to do our day-to-day things through the internet. Like if that goes down, what are you going to really do, right? And then what do you do to defend it, right? So NotPetya is like a good lesson into like what it takes for a country to kind of defend everything like that, right? And if you don't, what happens too, right? Look at that. I recommend, so if I were to recommend one blog to follow, it's called Bruce Schneier on security. I will, in the course, I will give you a lot more pointers, but this first lecture, I just wanted to introduce you. Bruce Schneier is, he is, he has a lot of security background. He is an icon in security, but the way he writes is very much like a journalist. So, so it's a great read always, but it's also quite detailed in terms of the technical accuracy of it. So if you want to kind of learn a little bit of like what's going on, I recommend just subscribing for his blog, or just even like, if you are researching some topic, go search if Schneier has written anything on it. It will give you a detailed view of what's going on. So I recommend just reading it. For your final projects, it will be great to kind of like go research his blog for anything like that. he has written a lot of books. A Hacker's Mind is the most recent one. You will see a whole bunch of books. He is a cryptography expert, so he talks about breaking cryptography. But like these are very great reads. They don't get put off by this being too hard, but his writing style is um, uh, very elaborate and almost journalistic. So so I recommend that. And there is few things I want to kind of leave you guys with, but before we do, we have about 15 minutes. So um, let's do this as a discussion. What we're gonna do is, you know, um, like we'll maybe break into. I'll maybe how many of us are there? Maybe four. Okay, so I'll maybe break into. We probably don't have that. We can do it 10 minutes. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll create 4 breakout rooms, and what I want you guys to just like, this is very free form. It's also a good way for you to interact with each other. I want you guys to discuss the topic, like, what value can cyber analytics bring to an organization? And cyber analytics, I mean, like, just like very broad. Like, if you invested even like a 1 day of like something doing in cybersecurity, what value is that going to bring to my organization? Right. And here are some like conversation things you could do, like, prevent business disruption, influence decision making, understand risk. But what I would do is like keep it at that level, but also make it specific from your experiences. Like, hey, I know some of you guys were hacked. Like, I think Andy, you were hacked. So like, hey, if I had XYZ, that would make a big difference. So we'll take maybe a 10-minute discussion. We'll come back at 11:57, and I will create groups here, breakout rooms. So let's do that. And this is going to be, it's going to be a bit quick, but I think 5 people, 2 minutes. So don't talk, give everyone time to talk. So maybe 2 minutes. I'm going to create 4 breakout rooms. Okay, guys. All right. So you guys will be in breakout rooms, and the topic you're going to discuss with each other is what value can cyber analytics bring to an organization. Yeah. Andrew, you want to join your breakout room? Do you know how to? Andy.
So the analyst, cybersecurity analyst in the company, like protect company information, employee informations, something like that.
Then on that case, should I like speak on like why it's important for there to be cybersecurity analysts at companies, or should I just like summarize something else?
I think
You can
just whatever
say,
your thoughts are.
oh, continue.
The same question. I don't understand, like, what's the purpose? Should I bring the values or the principles, or I don't understand what's the goal this activity?
It's just a discussion. So, what value can cyber analytics bring to an organization? Like if you thought about like, looking at all the threats and all the defenses your company can build against those threats, what's the value for it, right? Like, and it's pretty broad topic, so it could be at very low level too, like, hey, um, uh, we just have to protect our IP or intellectual property and not have our competitors steal it. So how do we protect it, right? So, keep it pretty broad. And also like what I really want you guys to maybe discuss more is your experience and your level of understanding, right? You don't have to make something up, like just your understanding in your interactions with cybersecurity so far. Just take a couple minutes and share those in terms of value.
Okay, well, I can start. So I started, well, I can say that I started like back in 22, and I did take this class, but I had to drop it due to me not really understanding what was really going on. And I came back a year later taking CIS 71 through 72, just so I can.
Anybody else?
Mine is just on the basis of interest, considering your background in shipping. So basically, what's the role of cybersecurity for you? I know you talked a lot about logistics and freight and how it could disrupt shipping routes. Just curious as to
How's it going, guys?
Hey, it's going well. We kind of answered the question. We're just waiting around. We were mentioning how like prevention and having your defenses up is always best practice. Otherwise, you don't want to get caught in a situation where it's too late.
Great. Did any of you guys get chance to share your like maybe personal experience? Like, hey, this is kind of when I thought of cybersecurity, if when I was working here or something like that. Any personal experiences?
Yeah, nothing.
No, I work retail, so it's
No store theft in retail.
not on my level of retail, no.
Okay.
I guess my work experience would be like deploying products like, for example, CrowdStrike for next gen antivirus solution and paying so much money for it because you're confident in the product and you're confident about their guarantee and warranty that if and should something happen that they will protect against it and they will kind of remediate before anything goes haywire.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, that's great to share. Sweet, awesome. Let me pop into one more room and then we'll all regroup.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else want to share? We got a couple minutes, I believe.
I guess in terms of trying to maintain your your credibility as a company. And it's another kind of security that also involves this balance between like trusting so that you can get things done and people can share and enjoy things, and then having everything locked down so that you can control it, which I think for a lot of companies is hard to manage.
Yeah, I think there's an app right now. You can download it. You take a picture of it and compare whether the product is fake or not.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. Right. We'll be regrouping shortly here.
Okay. Do we leave the room?
It'll do
that,
its
or-
thing.
Okay, it'll do
Don't
its
worry
thing.
about it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. It's my first breakout session in Zoom, so this is all very exciting.
Yes.
That's great. Awesome. I was gonna say regroup in a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, cool, guys. As other people come in.
Yes, exactly. You remember that is exactly there. Yes.
What class is that?
CodePath 221. I'm taking that one also.
Yeah, that's right. Code path. Okay.
Okay, guys. I think everyone will be joining here shortly. Okay, great. So typically, what we would like, we won't do it this breakout, but typically what we would do, we'll do a couple of breakouts during this course. We would be doing a bit of like, recap of what your group thought. But today we are gonna not do that. I'll maybe have one or two people say anything interesting which they kind of thought of, like cyber analytics. Someone wants to volunteer what their group thought like was interesting, or what came out to them. I was like, oh, that was like a great point. Yeah, go ahead, Reggie. I think your hand's up. Is that?
Yeah, that is me.
Yeah.
So what me and my group talked about is how important cyber analysts are, just for like in terms of like going to other companies and trying to identify vulnerabilities and potential security disruptions. But we also said that we also discussed and agreed upon that being an analyst can also like bring solutions and possible security protocols to companies just to help them out.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, just there is a lot of job roles around that. When we will talk a little bit about that. Anyone wants to share like maybe like a personal experience, like someone brought up in their group, which was quite interesting to them, or like maybe a tool which was very helpful. They thought like, or they would go and try out something like that. I overheard like Andy's group was talking about something, some sort of a tool. Was that you guys, Andy?
Yeah, we were talking about Equifax hack that impacted, I forgot what is the number, how many millions of people, and there was a $70 million lawsuit that was paid out to the victims.
Yes.
Yeah, that was from Chelsea. So for my experience, I got hacked, and I guess the cyber analytics bring to organization is to safeguard lives, to make sure we are not leaking personal sensitive information. In this case, I was driving for Lyft, and someone called me and claimed they were Lyft, and that I got a bad rider for a score, and they pay me $75 to respond to the feedback. Turns out it was a hacker, and it took around $1,200 from my weekly Lyft driving expenses because of just that call. So I was tired. So I was tired during that day and didn't really think about it was from Lyft or hackers. So I just pulled aside and log into my account, and obviously they were on the other side, capturing all my password and clean out my weekly earning that week. I called Lyft after the fact, but they cannot do anything. So I just filed a police report as a result.
Yes. No, that's
expensive lessons to be learned.
Yep. That's and there is always an urgency, and there is always a big moment, right? And so
Yes,
that's
right. Remember that movie I told you guys, The Beekeeper?
Yeah.
It talks about similar stuff, even worse, but just a caution, that was a pretty violent movie too. So
yeah, see, awesome. That's great. Yeah. So one of the point, which is a great segue, which I want to make, and sorry guys, like I might run like a few minutes, like we'll wrap it up in a couple more minutes here. So security is a team sport, and like as you kind of maybe talked a lot, and we saw some of these things, like 80% of the stuff is process and communication. Like like a lot of attacks you're kind of seeing now, like are kind of like very based on like social engineering, right? And so 20% is technology. And so which is a good and a bad news, right? Like which means like there is a lot of work, but also bad is like technology only can do so much here, right? So you kind of keep that in mind, which also means like you can develop yourself as a security professional with keeping that in mind, right? Like you have to develop the process and communication side of things as well, and keeping on trends, keeping on like keeping on current events is very important, right? And so that's the value you would bring to the organization. And so that's what makes it relevant. Otherwise, it makes just a checkbox, right? People don't care about it because they don't see the value, right? So that's one important thing you want to keep in mind. Awesome. So we'll wrap up. There are a few links in the slides. You can kind of keep these blocks as like something you want to like read on like be aware of. So let me review the lab for this week. So the lab is two parts: the Discord part, which we already talked about, and then the second part is register at Try Hack Me. So I will we have moved from Hack the Box to tryhackme.com. So in your assignment, you will see like take 20. This will probably take you 20 minutes. What I want you guys to do, and it probably be it is 70 points. Create a Try Hack Me account, use your first name, last name, and then complete this room. And so this room, I will show you what that room is. It will walk you through it. And so I want you guys to create a Try Hack Me account, and we will review this next class. Please submit it. So this room is tutorial. I am signed in as myself. So it will ask you this: start your first machine. And so here it will show you start, connect, attack. I want you to guys to use start attack box. It will walk you through all the options. For bonus points, if you can do Open VPN, or that would be great, but don't worry about it if you cannot do Open VPN. You will get bonus points if you do Open VPN. But once you kind of have the connection, you will put the flag in here and then upload the screenshot. And so what does that mean? So, on that means, like, create a document like this, and I have a link for this from your assignment. So create a TryHackMe account, go to the room, complete it, and then once you complete the machine, you will get a screenshot like this. Add that screenshot, and then you get extra points for for Open VPN. So I'm just gonna write here extra points for Open VPN. And then if you want to starting out in cyber, that's another room you can complete. These are very, very self explanatory. So that's your lab. You do this, and then what I want you guys to do is download this as a PDF file and upload that. Upload everything as one file as your lab assignment. Is that clear? Or are there any questions for this?
Are you sharing the link for that document, or?
Yeah, the link to that document is going to be in your lab. It will be in Canvas.
But it's not there yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not there yet. It will
Okay.
be right after the class.
Okay, sounds good. And you wanted to send it to as a file in PDF, right? At the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Results.
So just one question before we leave. In this case, I mean, to prove the Discord group, you want us to send to attach also a screenshot, or
Yes,
how do
a
you?
screenshot. A screenshot. That's right.
Okay.
Any other questions? So these things you will be doing through Canvas. Okay. So you will be making sure you're on Discord and share a recent hack in CIS 55 channel, and then complete or sign up for TryHackMe and complete the room tutorial. Okay, Rob, you have a question?
Just curious, for future classes, are we going to need access to NetLabs?
I want to first get a hang of like how you guys are doing. If you guys progress faster, then we will do NetLabs. But the last class had trouble, so we didn't do NetLabs. So because NetLabs sometimes can be a bit tricky, so that's why I use TryHackMe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you can make a copy of this Google document, or you can make your own. But what I really want you guys to is not upload individual screenshots, but like one PDF. Okay.
Okay.
If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me those questions on Discord, or even save or send me an email. Okay.
Okay.
So let's do that. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, sorry for running over a bit today. That was it for today. I know we talked about doing Stuxnet, but maybe start of next class, we'll watch Stuxnet for a little bit, and we'll cover a little bit about ethics as well. So those two things will add to the thing. As a follow-up, I will send you guys the recorded Zoom for today, the slides, and then the lab, which is due. The lab is due before the next class starts. So the lab is due before next Friday, and you can use the afternoon session for it. And next week you will have the quiz, the first quiz, and the quiz will mostly be based on everything we covered in this class. Yes?
Perfect. Good.
Awesome. All right.
That's
I'll see you guys next Friday. Please use Discord. Feel free to ask questions, share anything. And hope you guys learned something new today. And this was fun and informative.
You have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys.